Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast. We have an awesome guest for you today. He's an industry thought leader. He's a tech guru. He's got a wealth of industry knowledge and expertise. He's an incredible networker, and he's also one of the most well-liked people in the industry. Please help me welcome back to the show, Eric Kujala, Vice President, Product Marketing at ICE Mortgage Technology. Eric, welcome to the show.
Mr. Hammond, always a pleasure, my bud. I love it. I gotta set that bar a lot lower somehow, though. I gotta figure out how to live up to some of those expectations now. So
you are a great networker. Every person I know who's ever met you loves the interaction they've had with you. So you are one of the nicest people and most well-liked in the industry. And I'm just glad you could join us. I didn't even say you're one of the most listened to podcast episodes ever combined. I think you have more listens than any FinTech Hunting episodes combined. So the list could keep going, but I don't want your head to get too big. It's still got to fit on the screen for today.
It's still got to fit. I still have this much area to work with, so I got to stay here. So that's great. That's
perfect. You've been traveling. You just got back from IMB. Yeah. Any general observations? What were people talking about? Good crowd, a mediocre crowd, kind of what you would expect?
Yeah, it was definitely a decent crowd. I mean, we've all seen some of those conference attendance kind of slip a little bit just because of the economic headwinds that people have and so on. But it was a very well attended event. As always, MBA does a great job putting together speakers and content and things like that. There was a couple of themes. Probably nothing that's earth shattering here, but. A couple of themes where obviously rates have dipped a little bit. There's obviously projection what's going to happen this year. If you listen to Kevin Peranio, he's got a great summary of how that looks like for the rest of this year and so on. So, volume's still down, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So that was a positive conversation we've had a few times, which is always good, right? That's what everyone's kind of waiting for.
Yep.
The second topic that kind of came up, unless you had a question on that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, then the second topic that kind of came up was around this whole Realtor Sales Commission stuff, which is an area that I'm dangerously familiar with, and that's probably an overstatement at best, because it's an area that I'm kind of learning myself on what's going on in that space. But there were some talks about what it looks like from a seller concession to a buyer concession, and seller agent versus a buyer agent, what the commission splits look like, and how they're getting those things, and what's got to be disclosed, and so on. It was an interesting conversation, but the net of it, for the most part, I'm kind of afraid to say it, is it's kind of business as usual until things really shake out and play out. But it was an interesting conversation. It's definitely being talked about. There's probably about 2 or 3 different topics on that, and some side conversations that I was part of too as well. More of a learning experience for me.
Any tech discussions, AI?
Yeah.
Some people thought
AI is the new POS, Michael. Remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, everyone was talking about point of sale, and rightfully so, right? It's an extremely important part of the process. And this year, and obviously for the next probably several years, it'll be AI and what the impact of the industry is. So, it's a topic that we at ICE kind of, I don't want to say stay away from, but we're definitely very cautious about how we do it just because of the nature of the business that we have. But it was definitely a conversation at MBA or at the Independent Mortgage Bankers Conference. A lot of it was on the generative AI stuff, especially around marketing and how to leverage it for those types of content creation and things like that, which is really good. I think everyone's just kind of waiting to see what happens out of DC. A lot of this, so there's a lot of wait and see there, but definitely a big topic. It's not a question of if or when. It's more of a question of what the hell do we do with it?
Well, so. And I love how you mentioned from a marketing content creation. I totally get it. I've taught a number of classes on it. I had a class earlier today going over some of the specifics, and I think you've got to start using the tools, see what you're comfortable with. Is it ChatGPT? Is it Bard? Is it something else? And then I think it's about stacking some of those. But as I was talking to somebody, it still doesn't take away the relationship, the need for us to build the one-on-one personal human interaction. It's another tool in the arsenal. And then
exactly,
is there going to be some aspect of it on the back end to streamline some processes and automate some process? Well, we've already had workflow. We've already had business rules. We've already had microservices. So could it enhance some of those, maybe add a little more intelligence or data? Yeah, I guess let's wait and see where all of that goes.
Sure.
You
I mean,
talk
but
like,
it's like,
go ahead.
yeah, well, yeah, it's like anything else, though, right? I mean, you go back, I use this example a lot. The ATM machine was launched. I don't know. No, I think the first one was actually in the 50s, but I think the real commercially viable one was, and that's probably questionable. Best was probably, I think, in the mid to late 60s. I think it was. But I mean, and so it was out, and it grew. They expanded locations, but the popularity of the ATM machine didn't really hit until the 90s. Late 80s, after the Berlin Wall went down and travel started to open up. It was easier for people to get to Europe and the other foreign countries and so on to get at their funds. So this is another one of those things that when DU and LP came out,
Right.
oh, no, what's going to happen there? Oh my God,
You
our
know,
jobs are going to go.
underwriter,
Yeah,
and it's got.
yeah, it's just
The
it's not the
example I always give is the MP3 player. How many years was that out? You
Right.
store thousands of songs, and I couldn't freaking learn how to download one on an MP3 player.
Yep.
iPod comes out and shit, in 10 minutes I got all the
Boom.
songs from college, and man, this is great.
Right.
So
That's right. Yep, that's right. So, but again, but you have to accept it. You got, to your point, you got to learn how it works. What does it actually do? What won't it actually do? How do you teach it? Because it's only as good as the teacher. And there's all kinds of things to help even prompt it. You got to prompt it correctly. You've got to. There's all kinds of things that have to come in place. So your skill sets have to change. So
for marketing content with AI, the two main principles I always focus on is the people that will win will be the ones that master prompting and master personalization. If you don't figure out those two, it's going to sound like some jumbled, computerized garbage. And it's going to be the subject matter experts that win. I always say you can write program code with AI and Chat GPT. Well, guess what? I'm not a programmer. So if I do use chat for that, it's going to suck. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it'll be the worst code ever come out of that. I'm the same way, right? It's like,
I wasn't going to say the worst ever, but thank you.
Well, the worst, but it'd be my worst. It'd be the worst that I would put together is what it comes down to.
All right. So we've talked about some of the highlights from IMB. I greatly appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about, you talked to a number of lenders in the industry. You've got kind of a constant flow of information. You're at ICE, so you guys get great data and information. What are some of the challenges, or what are some of the opportunities that lenders are facing in 2024? Let's not worry about 2023 and all of that stuff. That's behind us. But what is 2024? What are some of the things they're focusing on?
Well, I think a lot of it is to kind of use the words optimize their capacity, right? As you know, this industry's been elastic, right? It goes in and out, and it goes with both those, even just the human capital behind it as well. So I think more and more people are looking to invest in technology, or just invest in process changes. I mean, let's set aside. We always talk about technology, and obviously, I'll probably get yelled at for this, but that's okay. But let's just set that aside, right? We all know technology can help, right? And if you apply it correctly, it can help the process. If you apply it incorrectly, it can hurt, and so on. But there's even people just looking at just simple process changes, like really taking a step back and walking through that assembly line and saying, hey, look, is there stuff we can do that we just didn't have time to before? Didn't have the energy to before, didn't feel the need to before, that can make some fairly material business impacts to their process. So I think that they're really looking at kind of the process itself, and then looking at, okay, what technology do we have, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of it's like, what do we have that we haven't been using, to its fullest degree? What are our true gaps? So there's a bit more deeper analysis, I think, going on these days.
Well, and I like to hear that, because I think a lot of people really haven't studied their processes, their workflow, how they manufacture a loan. And there's a lot of inefficiencies just inherently already built into that. I remember 20 some plus years ago selling LOSs, and, when business rules came out and logic came out, I mean, we'd do a demo and they're like, no, I don't think your system does it. You have to show me. And like, there's nothing to show you anymore. Those screens don't appear because they don't apply to this loan, and the business logic eliminated them from the flow. Yeah. What do you mean? And there was all kind of skepticism. You kind of had to prove to them, this isn't a 203K loan, so we don't need to show those 203K screens. And
and it's weird because you talk to someone, it's like it's not on purpose. It's not deliberate. They're not trying, the people that report up to them or whatever is just reporting on what the process looks like today. And without really digging in, it's not, they may not know any better. They may just not have asked that question before, or maybe that question never came up. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why. It's definitely not I don't want to say malicious, but it's definitely not it's not on purpose. Like there's no ill will.
Let's come up with a shitty process. It happens over the years, different people, different iterations. And different market conditions. During
Totally.
COVID, it was all about, we just got to find more capacity.
Just go, just go, just go, just
Yeah.
go, just go. Yeah. Yep.
So certain things get kind of implemented into the workflow, and then you're like, well, crap, why are we really doing it? But I think it's a great point that people need to do that before they look at technology. And then when they do look at technology, look at what you got and what can it do? I always reference our phones. There's so much more I could do on this phone that I don't even know it does.
Yeah, exactly.
So do I need another one that's now $2,500 or $4,000 because it does one thing more, but I don't even use the other 50 that my current phone uses. So
Yep. So I think, so to answer your question, so that was kind of the first part, was kind of really taking a step back, taking a deep breath, looking at the process, right? Identifying what's actually there versus what may not be there, and that type of thing. And I think that the second thing is, it's really about, how do I attract customers? Like, how do I go out and improve my customer acquisition strategy? Right now, it's a bit, I hate using the words customer acquisition because it sounds like very harsh, very edgy, but that's what it is, right? It's Kevin O'Leary's favorite question on Shark Tank is, what's your customer acquisition cost? Right. It's like, everyone's got to know it. So, they're trying to understand what those things are, where to invest in those things to really not only just stand out, but to actually cater to them and win that business.
You've got to win some business if you want to keep the lights on, if you want to keep innovating, if you want to keep doing that. And I think that whole acquisition of how do you leverage the CRM and marketing content, and what message are you conveying? Are you just throwing people features and functions, or do you really know their pain points? And have you taken the time to really do a discovery and find out where are their pain points? And
discovery is a good one. The discovery is definitely a good one. Yep. That's something that we're harping on, quite a bit to understand. You have to understand what they're doing today to apply where we can help. So it's funny, not to have a commercial for them, but Stratmore did a recent study on kind of what actually drives referral business and things like that. And, and Mike Seminari and those guys do a really good job of this. I got to give them credit because they're the ones who came up with it. But, they did a study, and it's like process actually drives referrals. Like, it's, the loan officer relationships, the broker relationships, the AE relationships all start help feed the top of funnel stuff. But it's really like the experience itself throughout that lending process that gets people to kind of come back, right? So he actually has a good analogy, and he goes, Would you go to a restaurant again if you just liked the waiter but the food was really bad?
See, that's a perfect example and analogy. And you're right. You've really got to understand what's all involved in that whole borrower experience. It is not just the front end and they were able to fill out their app quickly. If it takes you 90 days to get the damn loan done, if you didn't help them, I was reading a J.D. Powers origination satisfaction survey. And the good and bad of that was overall lending satisfaction was up. But when you dug deeper, first-time home buyer satisfaction was down significantly. And why? Because you have to be more informed. You've got to be more of a trusted advisor. It's a more complex transaction. Yeah. It's a more uninformed borrower at that stage, first time they're going through this, and I think that's some of the stuff that, if you can find the processes, if you can start defining and really look at experience from hello to close, that's really the experience, not from hello, I got your app.
Yeah. Yep. They really, and that's why I think a lot of people are taking a step back. Okay, how do we actually, prepare ourselves for this next wave of whatever? Now, I don't know. Is volume going to be as high as they were before? I can't imagine it would be, but I have no idea. I'm not qualified to talk about that. I'm not an economics guy by any means, but
economist.
Exactly. That's right.
But I think we can all agree, rates are going to come, they're going to fluctuate a little. It's going to be an election year. For the most part, they should at least start stabilizing. But what the fallacy that a lot of people think is, as soon as rates go down, things are going to be great. There's still an inventory shortage.
That's right. That's a good point.
And what's going to happen is when you have low inventory and rates start dropping, then home prices go up. So you're going to start pushing out affordability for some people. So there's not going to be a magic button on any of this. And like you said, there's far smarter people than us that are economists that can go through all of that. We're in conference season now. It's hard to believe, you just got back from IMB. We're what, 2 months away from ICE experience, March 18th, I think it starts. So
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you guys are gearing up for. To me, it's one of my
Oh
favorite
man.
conferences of the year. You guys do such a good job of catering to different audiences. You've got to cater to executives. You've got to cater to end users. You've got partners coming
Yep.
in. What can people expect from ICE Experience 24?
Yeah, well, let me just throw out this real quick. Early bird discount ends January 31st. So if this airs before then great. If not, then register anyway.
Yep.
So, but as you know, to your point, and we always talk about this internally, like, is this a user conference? Is this an industry conference? And what we've really settled on is it's both. Like
Right.
it's we're encapsulating both, and now the organization just got that much bigger. So how do we include our new colleagues from Black Knight? And the content that's specific to the worlds that they've been playing in, which is obviously servicing and a few bits of overlap on the CRM side and things like that, which has been fantastic to work with. So a lot of the content, you kind of nailed it, was really through a couple different lenses. One is, how do we support the end user, right? The system administrators, the power users, whatever you want to call them, and the content related to what they're looking for, right? Which is, some very product specific type things. So we have a whole series of content around. In fact, if you go to the website, you can actually filter by these things and see the stuff that's relevant potentially to your world. And then we have to create content that's more industry focused, executive level type things. And so we've got a whole series of sessions around that. And the way we've designed kind of the tracks to help kind of the world get organized is around kind of the process. Like, what is your, customer acquisition, strengthening sales and customer retention, right? How do you become, operationally efficient and so on? How do you then kind of get it in the second? How do you then do regulatory and compliance? How do you do then, the different servicing aspects and so on? So there's a lot that goes into these things. We got about this will be the most, and it's not about the number, but just because of all the things that are coming into play, I think we've got about 56 breakout sessions.
That's awesome.
Across
I'm
2 days.
excited. I'm moderating one of them. It's an
That's right.
automation
That's right.
panel that will be on Wednesday afternoon. So you guys make sure you schedule your flights to fly out on Thursday. Don't miss this. It's not because
That's
I'm
right.
moderating, but it's because we've got some super intelligent people that know ICE. They're using it. They're doing some incredible things that people don't want to miss. So if you haven't registered, make sure you register. It's March 18th through 21st. Las Vegas Wynn.
18th to the 20th. Yep. March 18th to the 20th, Las Vegas at the Wynn. Beautiful property. They do a great job. It's right next to the Sphere. And when I mean right next, it's like a 9-iron away. So you can actually kind of like see it in action.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully you and I will get to break some bread. Absolutely. I know how busy you get with coordinating so many of these things. What do you kind of see as people head into ICE conference season? What do you kind of want them to leave ICE with? What do you want them, to kind of leave and now then start actually executing and acting on?
Yeah, well, I think, again, from the two lenses, right? There's probably a couple of different things we want them to walk away with. From the end user and power user, system administrator type stuff, we want them to understand a better understanding of how these organizations are coming together, right? Just from a product and capability standpoint, there's a lot more into the solution mix, which is kind of also true for the executive segment. We want them to understand that there's a lot of investment going on to bring these solutions together, right? Not, how does MSP and Encompass, get support that environment better and so on. So the understanding of how those worlds come together is probably one thing we want both of those groups to come away with. I'd probably say that the second one is just, overall just industry collaboration, because there's a lot of really strong talent that walks around there and is available. A ton of our executive team is there, meeting with customers and prospects and partners and all kinds of stuff. So there's a good opportunity to get some industry leverage there. Plus, not only just the networking capabilities. I know people say that all the time, but we see a lot of partner meetings, other lenders getting together to talk through things as well. So there's a really good networking opportunity there. But we just want people to come, out of it knowing that, like, okay, there's a spot for us to go to. There's a collection for us to meet with. There's a connection point for all of us to figure out, what's the best way to kind of tackle this industry. and make it better for the home buyer. That's the ultimate goal, right? Is how do we drive down that cost of origination? So, and we're hoping to educate and share and also learn
Yep.
From the community as well, and how we can all kind of collectively do that. So I know it's kind of a roundabout way of getting to a couple things, but that's really what we're trying to get to.
You've covered so many great things, Eric. You and I could talk forever. I can't thank you enough for sharing all of your knowledge and insights on this episode of the FinTech Hunting Podcast.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.